Here with the lovely Evie, and we're at the ERVAPS conference in Cambridge, which is a veterinary physical therapist rehabilitation conference. So we're really, really happy to be here. And we've got the gorgeous Dr. Katrin Jahn here to talk to us about pain and behaviour, all the way from Abu Dhabi. German Vet Clinic over there. So we would normally do some like advertising about the big walk and stuff, but in honesty, we've had a little bit of a technical failure, so I can't show you an amazing video clip. But I do want to tell you that we at CAM are hosting a big walk in September. It's a virtual event. You do not need to do any walking. It is all online for the mere fee of £10. 30 days of education about how to best manage your dog with arthritis. So please, one of the Cambassadors, put a link, come and support us. It's really important. But now over to the amazing Katrin to tell you all a little bit about herself.
Thank you, Hannah, and thanks so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be with you guys. So I'm a vet. I own a practice in Abu Dhabi. I've had that practice for, 14 years now. And I'm really, really interested in behavior medicine, so much so that I started a residency in behavior medicine in 2019 through both the American and the European colleges of veterinary behavior medicine. So I'm in my third year of the residency, so I'm hoping to sit my exams in 2024, my board exams. And I know. It was supposed to be next year, but I had to bump it to 2024. But I see only clinical behavior cases now. So as part of the residency, I have to see 300 cases for the Europeans and 400 cases for the Americans. And I'm at sort of 330 now. I know. So that is what I now
see a case. We're not talking half an hour.
No,
we're talking hours and hours.
Yeah. So the consultations themselves are about 2 hours, but then there's the prep. So they're reading through the questionnaire and looking at the videos. And then there's the report writing afterwards and the follow-up. So one case can easily comprise about 4 hours at a time. So they're comprehensive cases. Yeah. And they're always complex. Yeah, always really complex.
Yeah. Well, let me just tell everybody how we met, because you did the awesome deed of getting in touch saying, please, can you bring the CAM practice training to my practice in Abu Dhabi? And I did an online event, didn't we? So yep. I was getting up at like 5:30 in the morning to start teaching at 6. And you guys were in your evening drinking wine after work or whatever it was. It was kind of like a beautiful event. And you brought CAM over to Abu Dhabi, which just blew me away, because we're still quite in our infancy. So the fact that you were like, this is really important that my team know about how pain presents, because I'm now the resident behaviorist and they need to understand how it's connected. So let's just go straight dive in. How much of your caseload with behavior cases as a first opinion practitioner, not in a clinical setting, i.e. in a university setting, how much do you feel link back to underlying pain?
And this is such a great question. And I actually went back through my cases today and just had a kind of a look through. I would say at least 80%, if not all cases, behavior cases, have a physiological link somewhere. So whether that's musculoskeletal pain, or whether that's gastrointestinal discomfort, or whether that's dermatological discomfort, atopic dermatitis. There are so many different physiological facets and types of pain and presentations of pain that I think are involved. And I've had a couple of real sort of standout cases where if we hadn't addressed the physiological, I wouldn't have been able to make any progress with the behavioural, really. So it's a vast amount, and yeah, it's quite mind-blowing. And a little bit scary in a way, because we know that, so few pets with behavioural presentations actually see a vet. I think a lot of people try and solve behaviour problems with trainers. And I'm not saying that trainers shouldn't be involved at some point, but vets need to be involved too. And that's one of my sort of main messages, is that as vets, we have to be involved in behaviour cases. We mustn't refer them to trainers or, behaviour consultants.
They need a good checkout. They definitely need to.
100%.
I think what's exciting about your field is it is dynamic. It's changing really quite rapidly, in that I know that I don't look 44, but I am, and I have now been a vet for 20 years. And I can remember when I qualified, I was expected to not only greet the owner, read their clinical notes, examine the animal, deal with a behavioural problem, clip nails, do the anal glands, vaccinate them, and send them on the way in 10 minutes. And you're like, what is going on? So I've got a German Shepherd in, it's just bit the husband, but I've got to vaccinate it, do its nails, and do its anal glands. And it was just like, whoa, that's moving away. That's really, really moving away, isn't it? And people are beginning to take behavioural issues much more seriously. They're not just something you go, I'm just going to try and give a little bit of advice, I'm going to wing it. It is taken much more seriously. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do. And I think we're on the cusp of something great. I still think there's a lot of work to be done, to be fair, but I think there's so much more awareness now that never used to be the case. And we're hopefully moving away from 10-minute appointments. But there's definitely more awareness, which is great, and we need that so badly. So, yeah, I do agree. I do still think there's a lot of work to be done, but there's so much more of the right information, I think, around. I think there was traditionally a lot of the wrong information around, and there still is some, but there's much more of the right information around.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there is, I'm going to be properly contentious now, I think there's still a lot of the wrong information in the very public sector, going via TV, going via the YouTube and stuff. And it is a bit worrying that still really predominates. But I do think that a lot more evidence-based understanding, and your figure of 80% fits massively with the paper that came out by Professor Daniel Mills and his team, his global team of clinical behaviourists, that 28 to 82% of the caseload that they see in a more referral type setting was pain related, be it direct or indirect or associated. It was just like mind numbing. So let's give the followers a little bit of a taste of what you see on a daily basis. And I think what I'm going to ask you to do is do kind of a classic direct link case that they will all go, oh yeah, well, I saw that coming. But then I'm going to ask you to drift and maybe start going, well, you wouldn't have seen this one coming, and talk about less obvious ones. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
And then I'll let Evie speak as well. Shut up, Hannah. I'll just go over here.
Okay, shall I start with the classic case?
Yeah.
So this is a doggy called Sabine, who actually was originally from the US and moved over to Abu Dhabi, and had a history of aggressive behaviors, particularly to people coming into the home, people and dogs that he would see on walks, and to the point where they were quite worried, because they were worried they couldn't have their parents come over to stay, which is kind of a big deal in Abu Dhabi, when you're living overseas and you can't have people come over to stay. So I saw Sabine and I got a whole bunch of videos from him. And in one of the videos, it's such a great video, he's really reluctant to walk down the stairs. He's probably 8 when I saw him first at that point in time, so a slightly older dog, and just really hesitant, reluctant to walk down the stairs, shifting weight, really quite anxious about going down the stairs. So one of the first things that we did was a proper kind of pain workup, and we did, hip x-rays under general anaesthesia, and lo and behold, he did have quite a significant degree of hip dysplasia. And we treated him both for that and for the associated anxiety and the arousal. So he was treated with pain medication as well as psychopharmaceutical medication. And he has just made a fantastic recovery, I want to call it. He's made such great improvements. They've got 2 young children. I regularly get videos, of how good he is with the children. And one of the big things was them being able to have some help, like a nanny come in to be able to take care of the children. That went, really, really well. We did some behavior modification to get him used to the nanny and get him acclimatized. And it was just one of those sort of, I guess, classic cases, where you had a true musculoskeletal arthritic condition. He's a German Shepherd. No, he's not. He's a Labrador Kahuna cross. So large.
What?
A Kahuna. It's an American breed. I know. I also
thought that was like make a surfboard.
I don't. Maybe it is. You'd know about that. So very classic presentation, but his presentation, his behavior presentation, was already happening in the US before they moved over to Abu Dhabi. But they, for whatever reason, didn't seek the help of.
How old was he when he came to see you?
He was either 6 or 8, I want to say. I think he was 8 because I think he's 10 now, and I've been seeing him for a couple of years. So, yeah, I think.
Okay, I'm going to butt in because I can do. So, how long? Because I want to deal with people's expectations, because this is a big, big thing within the vet industry, that communication goes wrong. Expectation management is absolutely so important. From the moment they came to see you to that dog being content in their home with their children, with their parents, what are we talking of?
12 months.
Wow. Yeah. And how many visits with you? How much intervention? What kind of things are we saying that these people committed to achieve that?
So the initial consultation, with including the onboarding of the medication, so that takes 6 to 8 weeks to get the fluoxetine in this case onboarded. So that's already 2 months, right, gone before the psychopharmaceuticals start to take effect. Then another appointment to come in and have the general anaesthesia and have all the x-rays done. And then numerous follow-up appointments, quite a bit of behavior modification, safety management in the home. Actually, my trainer going out for walks in the community and hand-holding and teaching the client how to respond in certain situations. So I would say from start to finish, I mean, we got some quick wins, I'd say probably within about 6 months, but to get that final sort of picture of, oh my God, giving the score of 10 out of 10 on the questionnaire of how well he's doing, that took 12 months. And you're right, that's a big thing, isn't it, to manage those expectations?
It really, really is. And it's almost like anybody that's in the behavior sector, you are welcome to cut that little snippet out and use it on your Facebook, on your Instagram, on your Twitter, whatever, because I do think a lot of owners expect us to be able to work miracles quite quickly. And there is a journey to go on. Okay, pluck a little bit of a figure out of the sky, and I'm going to be really a bit cantankerous. How much do you think those owners actually have to invest to get to that endpoint? When you look at because I want to celebrate them. I'm not doing it as a cynical thing. I want to go, bloody hell, well done, owners. And the other reason I want to do this is I want people to capture the signs of pain early so they don't have to go down this pathway.
Okay, so I need to convert it into sterling, but you're talking about £2,000, I'd say, with the medication, with the medical workup, with the consultations, with the follow-up consultations, with the appropriate trainer sessions. Yeah, I think you're probably looking somewhere between £1,500 and £2,000, something like that.
So that's a definite take-home message of, guys, if you're at all suspicious, get attention early as well, isn't it? Because a lot of the behaviours that were within that dog, that were part of their repertoire, by that point, I guess you could call it learnt. And so there was a lot of work to be done to re-educate and choose a different pathway, a different choice pathway.
Yeah. And also, we have to remember that pain changes the brain. It can... on a long-term basis, it can change the neural connections and how the parts of the brain communicate with each other, and that has to be undone and that has to be addressed. And it might not be able to be fully undone. There might still be, that neuroplasticity, that hangover from that long period of potentially of pain, and the practice behaviors that also manifest in neural pathways, strengthening of neural pathways. So there's that to consider as well.
Sorry, I'm buttoning again. Explain that to people. It's only because I've done it for so many years. I can almost feel that the 47 people that are watching just right this moment are going, what was that about? Neural pathways, plasticity? What are you talking about? And by the way, 47 people, say hello and tell us where you're coming from. Me and Evie are in Cambridge. And just to make you laugh, Katrin, we're drinking wine out of plastic glasses because we're now 16 again. and they won't let us have glassware.
At least you're drinking wine. I've only got water.
Oh no. No, we don't do that. Okay, so tell us about this neuroplasticity. What are you talking about? That when in pain, the brain changes. And I think people need to realize this, because it kind of frustrates me that people think that pain is like a light switch. You know, I always make people laugh by going, it's not like a bathroom light switch cord. You don't just pull it and it pings off. It is a lot more complex, isn't it? Explain.
Yeah. So I guess in a neurotypical brain, so in a brain that's working in exactly the way it should be, you have very healthy communication between different between different brain centers, sorry. And I guess the two sort of main centers that we think about is the limbic system, which is the emotional part of the brain. And then we have all of these sort of cortical areas, which are in humans, the prefrontal cortex, in animals, that's the frontal cortices. But they're the areas of the brain that kind of do the decision making and the thinking, the rational thinking, the modulation, I guess. So you've got this emotional part of the brain and the thinking part of the brain. And normally there's really good communication and modulation that happens between those two areas. However, when there is pain, when pain occurs, the communication and the modulation is altered. So those pathways are altered, and they can be altered quite permanently. And that communication essentially doesn't work as well. It breaks down a little bit. You might have different levels or intensities of emotionality or of emotional reaction to certain things, because of the pain, the pain changing the brain in certain ways. And that's called neuroplasticity, and that can be quite long lasting. So the brain doesn't stay static. The brain is plastic and changes, and connections change according to what's going on in the physiology, so in the internal and in the external environment. And those changes, that plasticity, can be hard to undo, and the longer the pain has been around for, the harder it is to sort of backtrack and undo that. I hope I've explained that okay.
No, you have, and I'm going to just put it really, really simply. Memories. And the only reason I say is because I'm going to name drop, because I just love name dropping. Duncan Lascelles got into pain because he was interested about memory. Isn't that freaking amazing? And when you think about it, when someone says, oh, you're never going to forget that, you're like, no, I probably won't, actually. And it is that simple, is it? And there's a brilliant TED talk, if anybody ever wanted to learn about pain and the cognitive side of things. Have you listened to the one where the guy, he is walking through the bush wearing a sarong? What's that about? Anyway, he gets bitten by a snake, doesn't really think about it, thinks it's a twig scratching his leg. And he carries on walking and he collapses. He goes to hospital, nearly dies. But he survives. Years later, he's walking through the bush and a sarong again. Strange. But he then feels something, thinks that he's going to die, and it was a scratch. And memory is a very, very powerful thing. And how dare we think that we're the only ones that have that? How dare we? When we expect our dog to have memory, to learn to do what we ask of them. But then we're like, no, they're not capable of having memory. They're not able to process. But you just asked him to sit. You taught him that a couple of years ago, So, sorry.
Yeah, and the learning and the memories are even stronger when it relates to something that's of massive importance, like survival or almost dying, right? So that fear learning is so much stronger, and the memories around that are easier for the brain to recall really quickly. So that makes perfect sense. So anything that the body thinks it needs to be protective of, i.e. a pain state, it's going to learn so much better.
Exactly. Okay, I am going to shut up and let you say something.
Go Evie.
Evie. Go Evie. I'm going to sit here and drink some wine.
Katrin, what we'd really like to know is like things that you wish that owners would be like, that's a behaviour issue that could be associated with pain, not just because the dog's not well behaved or because they're getting older and they're just getting lazy and grumpy about things. Just give us a few examples of different things that you're like, they should be just basic things that we are aware of.
Yeah. So I'm going to be a total pain in the backside, and I'm going to say that almost all changes in behavior, almost all changes in behavior, or behaviors that seem not typical or not normal, everything can be a sign that there might be pain present. And, you know, so we can get the dog that's withdrawn or quiet or hiding or doesn't want to be interactive, but we can get the total opposite. We can get the dog that's overly attached and overly clingy and, you know, hyperactive and pacing and moving. So those contradictions can both be signs of pain. And so the case that I was going to mention, which is the one, you know, that you maybe didn't see coming, that was a contradiction as well. So, you know, we think about perhaps abdominal pain being reluctance to eat, you know, reduced appetite, not wanting to, or not yet, just, yeah, reduced appetite, not wanting to eat. So that could be one presentation. But on the other hand, you can also get dogs that have a ravenous appetite that might also have abdominal discomfort. So it's there, you've got to really, if you think, and pet owners normally know their animals really, really well. If you think, this isn't quite right, or that's funny, my dog's doing something that is really unusual and that he hasn't done before, then anytime you find yourself thinking that, you have to think about pain, discomfort, something physiological.
Okay, I'm going to be a little bit of a irritation because I'm going to bring it back to reality. So say you're an owner who's listening now, 50 people watching, and your dog's doing something that's just slightly out of the norm, and no one else would probably know, you know, it's something very close to you, and you want to get that message across to your vet in the best possible way without coming across as neurotic. Because I have people come into my room and they'll say, look, I'm sure it's nothing, or I'm a bit embarrassed about being here, or I didn't really want to mention it, I was just going to get the vaccines done, but while I'm here, he's doing this. And they're so uncomfortable. But also from the other side of the table, there's a time as a vet you go, well, I don't know either. You know, I don't want to say it's pain when it might not be. I could, you know, scaremongering and stuff. So how do we have these conversations about subtle things because we want to catch this early if we can do?
So I think a couple of things. I think videos are really great here. So if I had that conversation with a client in the consult room, and I do still see general practice cases as well. So if a client said to me this or that or the next thing, you know, very subtle, I would maybe ask them to explain it a little bit more, or maybe try and capture it on video if they can, and WhatsApp it to me, or come in another day and perhaps show me again. Or I would ask them to collect data. So let's say they say my dog's poo's a little bit off sometimes, you know, sometimes it's semi-formed and then it might be runny, but you know, it's like that maybe only 3 days a week. I would maybe encourage them to actually collect data. So how many times a day is the dog pooing? And of those 3 poos a day, how many of those are liquid or, you know, look abnormal, softer, yellowy, dark, you know, whatever it might be, and get them almost to journal something. Because I think once we've got data and figures in front of us, we can do more with that than I think trying to interpret anecdotal stories. And I think that gives the client something as well to hold on to and to think, oh, they don't think I'm crazy after all. Right, I'm going to journal this and I'm going to document it and I'm going to get some videos and some photos. And then together, you know, we have to be collaborative here. Together, we're going to look at that and we're going to see what do we need to do next. And do we really think it's something we need to be concerned about?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you said the perfect word there, is collaborative, because I know when we're at practice, somebody will just drop a bomb in the room about something and you're like, where did that come from? Wait a minute, I was just about to vaccinate and you now told me that his tail doesn't move, he keeps dragging his right hind and he's bitten the postman. You're like, so actually, as you say, coming prepared with really good data, maybe even emailing it beforehand, trying to be really structured, I think would be good. Sometimes, and I'm not taking the mickey, I'm just saying what we see. Sometimes you'll get prose when you continuous words and you're like, oh, I don't know how to decipher. But if people could go, right, these are the behavioural changes I'm seeing. These are the physical changes that I'm seeing. This is the time scale I've seen it over. That's really helpful. Breaking it up so it's kind of a bit more methodical can be really helpful. Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Over to you. I'm awful. I know I'm awful.
What would be really interesting is you letting us know like a couple cases that you've had that you thought that was a really strange behaviour that I wouldn't have. I know you've said that all behaviours can be associated with pain, but have you had cases that like stick out and you're like, God, that was really weird?
Yeah.
And not what you expected at all.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there have been a few like that. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of them. The one that sticks out, yeah, because behavior is, and it's difficult sometimes to try and understand the context of it all, you know, put it all together and to understand, yeah, how it all fits together. I always say, I've also been a vet for over 20 years, Hannah, and these behavior cases are the most complex cases that I've seen in my entire career. That, you know, they're so multifactorial and there's so much to them. But the one case that springs to mind for sure that I want to talk about is a little French bulldog called Dexter, and of course he's a French bulldog. And he has atopic dermatitis, and every time his skin would flare up, he would show aggressive behaviors, especially to being touched either around the face. So he's got deep facial folds that keep getting infected. However, this other thing that he did was he had this ravenous appetite, even in the consult room. I mean, you know, it's quite nice also being able to sort of have seen these 330 cases, because you really start to compare and to be able to see, you know, the standout cases that like are really food obsessed and really ravenous. So we worked that up. So we had the atopic dermatitis and aggressive behaviors, and we could really kind of make a link there, and we could figure that out. But then we had this ravenous appetite, and we also had aggressive behaviors around food, right? Which makes sense. And we looked into things, and we actually found out that this little Frenchie had mild pancreatitis, and he also had vitamin B12 and B9 deficiencies. He was being fed a raw diet. So, you know, we were able to address those things as well. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's sometimes the really sort of contradictory behaviors can be as significant. So that ravenous appetite, you know, you could have thought, oh, well, you know, he's just a Frenchie and he's just really food obsessed, and, you know, he's really, yeah. But actually he was hungry, and he was probably painful, and he probably didn't have the right nutritional balance. And so by addressing both of his skin and his GI tract, we were really able to make big changes in his behavior. And again, we wouldn't have been able to do that if we hadn't addressed the physiology. So just thinking outside the box sometimes with behaviors that just seem a little bit not what we would expect, but perhaps the opposite of what we would expect, can be very, very significant.
So it must absolutely break your heart when someone pops online and expects a quick answer, and somebody from nowhere comes in and gives a quick bit of advice of, oh, just lock him in the kitchen. Yeah, get one of those Holty harnesses. Yes. Oh, tell him he's not
Tell him who's boss. Tell him who's boss. Tell him he's not allowed to take the food off the table. I know, me too.
Yeah, it really does. But I was listening to that story and I was thinking, yeah, as a first opinion practitioner, we definitely have cases that it's almost like peeling an onion, where you get through one layer and then you just deal with the next layer. And high five to both the vets and the owners that see it through, because it's arduous. It's often expensive. Sometimes there's difficult conversations where you don't have the answers. Like I was saying we got a lovely new vet working at the practice. He's so cool. High five, Callum. And I was saying there's a lot of times that we as vets do not have the answers. And it's a case of having to go through the motions and telling your owners that we're working it up. We'll get there eventually. It's the same as what happens in the NHS, isn't it? A blood test leads to a blood test that leads to a blood test that leads to a blood test, you know? But I think there's a lot of pressure on first opinion practitioners to just try and have the answer in a couple of hits, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a little bit where I think experience comes in, but also the confidence to say, look, I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't know the answer to this yet, but I will do my damnedest to try and find the answer. But it's going to require X, Y, and Z. And also, your doggie's not a straightforward case. You know, this is a little bit more complex. And because of that, we're going to have to dig a bit deeper and, you know, get some other colleagues on board and, you know, take a real, again, collaborative approach to this. And not all owners are willing to do that. I have to say I'm extremely fortunate that most of my clients are. I think otherwise maybe they wouldn't end up with me. But it, you know, that can be hard. And that, I think that can be hard for vets as well, because we want to do the best job we can. And if we're not able to, you know, because for whatever reason the clients just aren't ready to go down that route at that point in time, it's hard. And that's where I think also a lot of that compassion fatigue comes in, right? When we want to do a good job and we can't, you know, the handbrake's been put on us and we're not able to.
No. I've got to say goodbye to Kaz. Bye, Kaz. She says this every time. It's so beautiful. She's listening from New Zealand. She tunes in every time, and then she always goes, "Got to go to work now, Hannah. Bye," because we're obviously like 12 hours behind or ahead or whatever. But no, I think this gives me a real big opportunity to high five vets in first opinion practice, because, as Katrin has just said, she's quite lucky because many people come to her with a willingness to invest emotionally, physically, financially, time-wise. They're committed. And a first opinion vet quite often doesn't have that, because the owners come in and it's a passing comment. Yeah. Or it's an observation that they didn't think would lead anywhere. It was an observation that they didn't even have themselves. It was the vet that observed. And that's tough. That is really tough. If somebody's come in and they're expecting to do a vaccination for £36 and they're going to be on their way, and you go, no, I've got some problems here. It's really difficult. And the vet sector, we are having difficulties at the moment. We've got really big recruitment problems. I don't know if it's the same over where you are.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of people leave because of Brexit. We've had a lot of people leave because of COVID. And we are short-staffed in most clinics in the UK. So time pressures are on. Same with nurses as well. Same over there with nurses as well?
Yeah. I think we're a bit better with nurses. We've got a bigger nurse pool, but with vets for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Same problem.
It is really difficult. So the take home for anybody that's listening is, please, if you're a canine professional, if you're a dog owner, go with the intention to be the best person that you can be with regards to providing data, information, clarity, being open-minded, be prepared, send an email in beforehand, send video clips, send photos, be patient, be calm, because it's tough. I think the amount of emails and messages we're dealing with a day is crazy. Okay, let's do, looking at time, let's do another case. Give us another example. Try and possibly do, you've done like gastrointestinal signs, you've done your direct classic pain response. Can you think of something else that would make people go, ooh?
Yeah, so I've got a cool case. It's a cat case. Is that all right?
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So it's a cat case. So it was a cat that was presented to me for the classic, you know, urinating and defecating outside the litter box. So oftentimes it's only urination. So the fact that it was already urination and defecation was already a bit of a sort of a red flag. So this was an older cat, 10-year-old cat, that had in the previous 6 to 12 months started doing this. And the owner was at her wit's end because the cat started peeing on her young son's bed. So again, we get a lot of emotive, a lot of emotions coming in there. And it was really causing a lot of stress. And I did a home visit. So with all my cats, I do home visits. And we did the chat first, took the history, went through the questionnaire. And then I went and had a look at the cat. And I looked at the cat and I thought, ooh. And I could see its right eye seemed to be much larger than its left eye. And I looked at it a little bit more closely, and we had really dilated pupils in the right eye and the left eye. And I said to the client, do you think that she can see? Yeah, we think she can see. And they didn't really think too much of it. The cat still goes outside, indoor outdoor cat still roams around. And I kind of broke off the consultation. I said, I think we need to see her in the clinic. I think we need to do a proper ocular exam. And we did. So we brought her in to the clinic and we did a full ophthalmology exam. So one of my vets has a keen interest in ophthalmology. So we did a proper workup and we found that she was non-visual. So she came in, both pupils really dilated. She couldn't see. We did a little obstacle course for her in the consult room. And it was clear that she was non-visual. And so then I started thinking, well, I wonder whether that might be the reason that she's stopped using the litter box to urinate and defecate. Because although she might be able to locate the litter box by smell, they had also moved the litter boxes around, because as she started to urinate and defecate outside the litter box, they kept moving the litter box to try and find a better spot, right? Because obviously this spot wasn't a good spot. So they moved it around to try and find a better spot. But, it made me think, hang on a minute, can she not see? Is she not able to find her way easily to the litter box? And is she choosing places that she finds comfortable and convenient and, she knows her way to, and so on and so forth. And anyway, that's what it ended up being. So we worked up the ocular case and it turned out that she was FIV positive. So FIV is a big problem in the UAE. And she had been an indoor-outdoor cat and gotten into fights. But this was a true inflammatory condition. So she had glaucoma in both eyes. The right eye was worse, with some uveitis. And
did it have a good old pain? Uveitis, glaucoma. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we had pain, non-vision. But the main presentation was the behavior, right? That's what, I went out on this home visit thinking, it's an elimination, peeing, pooing outside the litter box. Let's see.
It's going to be stress-related behavior, blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Because there were some other sort of behavioral things going on, multi-cat household, other cats. So it was potentially a classic behavior case, but it ended up being a true medical case.
Wow.
And again, that point of, well, what would have happened if she hadn't gone to a veterinary behaviorist, if she had chosen a behaviorist and they'd done all the, the behavior mod and used pheromones and, environmental management, but they would have never actually, figured that out. And as soon as we were able to reduce the glaucoma, so we treated the glaucoma, she regained vision in one eye, not in the other eye. We ended up enucleating the eye that she didn't regain the vision in just because it seemed very painful. And videos sent a few weeks later, peeing back in the litter box again.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so let's just use that little bridge that you've given us in that there's not clinical behaviourists everywhere, and there aren't veterinary clinical behaviourists, in every locality that we reach out to. So we can't leave it there. We've got to give people that have done great behavioural training the opportunity to work better with their vets, because that's still possible. How do we do this? Again, it's about information dissemination, it's information sharing, it's about reporting, conversing, collaborating. What kind of advice could you give for that?
So I think first and foremost, there has to be an openness and a willingness there from everybody, the vets, the trainers. There has to be the understanding that actually only as a team can we achieve the outcomes that we want to achieve. So that's the first step. So it's finding those individuals that are willing to be that open and that collaborative. And I know from my part of the world that that's not that easy. And I think that's where we need to have a bit of a shift in, attitudes and a shift in thinking in the profession and the surrounding professions. So I think, establishing good relationships, if you are a trainer or a pet care professional, establishing good relationships with vets, and you might have to, knock down a few doors and until you find that veterinary clinic that is like fantastic. We want to work with a good behaviorist or a good behavior consultant. And then it's really about, creating that team, which has to include the pet owner as well. That has to include the vet, needs to have somebody, I guess, that takes a little bit of a lead on the case and that sort of pools the resource.
Worker.
Exactly. that pulls the resources together. And look, I'm not saying that that's easy, and we're by no means there yet, but I think we're heading in that direction. I think more people are understanding that it's the only way for some of these complex cases that we're going to be able to make a difference to that pet and that family and the owners, and everybody else. So I don't have an easy answer. I don't have a straightforward answer for that.
No, there isn't. There was never going to be a black and white answer to that. But we, because we're at this conference, going to be again, IRVAT, International Association for Veterinary Rehabilitation
and Physiotherapists.
Yeah,
We're there now.
We're there. And we've been meeting some fantastic people today, and people are coming up with their own pathways. So we've had, we met the lovely Sarah Heath, you must know.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, brilliant.
Oh, no, she's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's got her own centre, and she's got her own physiotherapist, and she's beginning to bring everything in-house, because it is quite hard always trying to communicate with different practices far, far away from her. We met a rehab team in Stowmarket with a vet physio that's working with another trying to get in with the local vets.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that is happening. It's a really exciting time.
Yeah.
I will talk about, I did a lecture today. You'll be well proud of me. I did a lecture. And I was doing educating owners about osteoarthritis, and I had a little video clip in there of an owner talking about the suspicion of chronic pain PDF that we have on the website, which if anybody follows CAM, you'll know that we have the little crisscross, there's chronic pain in the middle, and it's behaviour change, postural changes, physical changes, capability and gait changes, and there's a little place to write your observations under each of those kind of categories. And it just allows either the owner, the canine professional, the vet to communicate better. And this owner had printed it off, and she had taken it to her vet, and the vet really embraced it. And he went, by the way, I filled in one too for my own dog, and how excited she was. And you're right, it's a changing times.
Yeah.
It's finding the right network, and that network is growing massively as far as I can see, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to be honest, that's my dream, to one day have a centre that has all those things in-house, to have a behaviourist, a trainer or a couple of trainers, or behaviour modification specialists, having that pain assessment team, the rehab facility. That's the ultimate goal, isn't it? To have that sort of collaborative. And then it would be lovely to have a neurologist, an ophthalmologist.
The thing is, I wouldn't put it past you. That's absolutely mind-blowing, and you'll be able to achieve that just like that. Insane. You're awesome. So blimmin' lovely. Are there any questions before we start bringing this to a close? We won't lie. The reason that we look on a distance is because we're on the iPhone, because even though we're in Cambridge, the Wi-Fi is terrible.
It's worse than Cornwall.
Yeah, no glasses because we're not competent, and no Wi-Fi. So if anybody has got any questions, do pose it now. Tell us where you're from, obviously. We've had some lovely input. I need to shout out about this person. She makes me absolutely die. I freaking love the witchy Nurse Francis, because she's just great at giving like little snippets about things that she's come across as well. And I think all of us have got these stories, and the reason we're listening is because we're passionate about the area. But let me is giving no. So I think I need to ask you to give us some key messages to take home that you would like, if we could cut these little phrases out and disseminate them far and wide, what would you like people to hear? And then we're going to do 10 top tips about arthritis management.
Oh, okay. So I think probably 2 or 3 main take-home messages. The first one, I think, is whenever you have a gut feeling that your animal's behavior has changed or there's something not quite right, follow that gut feeling. Don't dismiss it, because you're probably right. And always consider pain as a contributing factor. And it doesn't have to be musculoskeletal, osteoarthritic type pain. There are lots of different types of pain. We touched on gastrointestinal, dermatological, and pain and discomfort. It's such a wide definition, isn't it? It can mean so many different things to different individuals. But yeah, always consider pain with behavior change. That would be my first takeaway message. And then I think the second takeaway message is look for those collaborative links, groups, whatever you want to call it. You know, find a team that's willing to collaborate to achieve the best outcome for your pet. And yeah, that might not be the easiest thing to achieve initially, but I think it's definitely, you know, you can find that. So just keep looking and keep coming back to great resources like Cam, you know, and all the people that come on here. And then finally, I think for general practice vets, you know, to just be open. And I know that general practice vets, because I class myself as one as well, we don't have an easy job, but to, you know, just be open. You know, ask clients to collect data, look at videos, and try and follow that journey, follow that route down of whatever that indication that that animal is giving us might be, whether it's behavioral or, you know, pain related, whatever it is. Yeah, so I think those would be my top tips. Always consider pain, look for collaborative groups, and just be open to following the path where the animal takes us.
Definitely. And I think a lot of people in this sector are quite emotive souls. I know that me, you, Evie we put our heart and soul into what we do, and you need to look after yourself because it is hard work, and the knockbacks, the kickbacks, the dead ends, the obstacles can really get you down. So that network that Katrin was talking about, really do put some energy into it. I'm lucky now. I've got lovely people around me, but it has been difficult at times. We have got a question, and I think it's a brilliant one. Evie, can you read it? Because I'm blind.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go close because I
haven't brought my glasses.
Let's go over here. Hi, I'm a recent tech graduate from the suburbs an hour west of Chicago. I'm in a little late, so I apologise if it's already covered. A lot of homes in my area are multi-level homes with a flight of stairs or a set of steps. How can owners soften those stairs for pets with arthritis?
Cool.
That's one for you, Hannah.
Oh, love it. Okay, so I think first of all, it's something that I made a big mistake with at the beginning is I was trying to make everything perfect, and I actually led to dogs feeling more anxious, more frustrated because I was blocking areas off and I was being quite restrictive, going, no, they just can't use the stairs. But think about how you can make it easier for them. So the dog might cope with wearing a sensible harness that's very comfortable, that maybe have a handle on the back, and that can assist them. Make sure it's got good traction, make sure it's well lit, make sure as they descend they actually land on a non-slip area. That's something I see all the time. They come down the stairs and they hit the deck and go flying. So those sort of things can make a big difference. Not having to be a purist is another thing I'm going to just talk about. Minimizing a dog from doing the stairs 10 times a day down to 2 is still going to offer benefit. And I have a lot of people that go, I've blocked off the stairs and he's getting all, anxious. Or just think about minimizing it. If they have got a reason that those stairs are not suitable because maybe elbow ache, shoulder problems, neck problems, back problems, and it does exacerbate the condition, even reducing the frequency is going to make a big deal. So it might be that you say to the owner, when you're hoovering, when you're busying around the house, give your dog a licky mat down on the ground floor. Let them be preoccupied. Do your busyness. Go up and down the stairs as much as you like. But then you can open up the stairwell again. Your dog can come with you up to the bedroom, down to the living room, but maybe assist them, traction, well lit. That's what I would say.
Yep. We've also got another one. So dog 1 started to react to fireworks 2 months after a muscular leg injury. Dog 2, panic, anxiety, crossing cattle grids, found lumbar strains and vibration, caused pain. Far better after massage course of treatment. Both dogs' behaviour improved drastically with treatment.
Yeah, nice, good stories. Yes, definitely share your stories, guys, because that's what CAM is about sharing what we're learning for the sake of the dogs, because that's what it's about. At the end of the day, you know, we all care about our lovely fur beasts that live with us. So sharing stories is a great way. Right, let's start doing the OA tips. Now, the reason that we do 10 top tips as best as we can is because we want to make sure that these lives are relevant for everybody that listens, okay? So the idea is that the three of us will share snippets of advice that we hope that you go, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And we're going to start with number 10 with Katrin, and then it's 9, 8, 7, 6, going around like that. Number 10.
Okay, I'm going to steal one of yours, Hannah, because I absolutely love this, and I say this to so many of my clients. More rugs, less drugs.
I love it.
I love that one. Yeah. So okay, the idea being having more rugs, carpets, tractionable surfaces around, non-slip surfaces will save your pet's joints.
I like that. I'm going to do another one, dog or log. Have you heard that one?
No.
So we have another one, hashtag dog or log. And that is weight control, in that people really, really do not appreciate what a massive impact weight control has, not only on their physical self, their pain state, but their emotional self as well. So when your vet says, we need to talk about the weight, don't get itchy about it. Don't get a little bit funny. Embrace it, because they've got your best interest at heart. Number 3.
I don't have a good saying like you guys, but leading on from what Katrin said, bring it into the practice. When they're sitting in the waiting room, provide yoga mats, because we've got slippery surfaces. Yep. Why make the owner do all the work at home, putting rugs down, and then when they come in, they're like ice skating?
Love it.
And also carpets when you're taking blood samples, so they're not like, oh my God. Definitely helps.
Good job. Number 4.
So I'm going to do a bit of a behavioural one. So using food puzzle toys. So food puzzle toys provide that kind of cognitive distraction. So if you're busy with a food puzzle toy, you're not thinking about the pain so much. So it kind of provides pain relief because you're not thinking, because your attention's not there. It's on the food puzzle toy.
I like that. Number 5 from me. Think about like lifestyle aids. You know, with us, we have things like Zimmer frames and walking sticks and aids to mobility. It's absolutely obvious that we should think about the same with our dogs. And the common one that I suggest to people is harnesses that are kind, supportive, comfortable, with a handle that can offer stability. I'm not talking about lift. Why wait till they're off their legs? Offer them stability so that they don't become vulnerable and have the slips, trips and falls. But don't take me black and white. If your dog does not enjoy wearing it, if it finds it uncomfortable, do not persist down that pathway. So always make sure that you tailor to your dog. Number 6. 6?
Yeah, 6.
Number 6, I think, is claws for me. Claws are massively looked over, but they're actually really important. I think as they're a younger dog, get used to touching their claws, get their nails clipped. When you're examining a dog, whether it's a nurse consult or a vet, always check their claws. It tells you a lot about how they're moving, and also if they're overgrown, make sure they're clipped nicely.
Love it. Number 7.
Number 7 is going to be very, very careful, if not to say don't use the ball throwers and those types of toys that cause... What is that?
No, I love it. It drives me crazy. Somebody said something to me the other day that I thought was so relevant, was, oh, you want to go out with your dog? Want to spend with your dog? Well, let's just send them as far away from you as possible. And I was like, that is so true.
I know. And I just want to say, you don't have to completely stop doing these types of activities, but rather than these real sort of like fast straight line things, use a frisbee instead or roll a ball. You can still engage in these activities with your dogs, but you can do it in a joint friendlier way.
I like that. I love that, in fact. Number 8, think about integrative therapies. Now, this is a little bit of a contentious term. So we've got alternative therapies where which were alternative to Western-based medicine, and they are not really accepted by the Royal Vet College. They should be used in conjunction with Western-based medicine. Then we've got this term called complementary therapies that are there alongside our Western-based approaches, but it's beginning to drift into being called integrative, because more evidence is coming to support hydrotherapy, physiotherapy, massage therapy, laser therapy, acupuncture. There is more evidence beginning to support their benefit. So they're going from being complementary and just like cherry on the top to actually this has got a really strong position in this dog's therapeutic plan. When you're creating your multimodal plan, think about this integrative approach of, even if it's your own hands and you go and learn how to do effleurage, petrissage, lovely massage techniques, use heat therapy, cold therapy, you can do that. Do bring it into your management plan. Number 9.
Number 9 for me is take your time. Whether you're an owner or a veterinary professional or a dog professional, whatever you are, take your time. Show your pet some love. Don't just march them up the road. They just go, you wouldn't march a 100-year-old gran up the road, so why would you march your elderly dog? In the consult room, don't just rush in and take the blood sample or shove the stethoscope or take its temperature. Just go slow. They're going to be overly sensitive, and that's where behaviour comes in as well. Go slow.
Love that. It's almost made me tearful because it's so universally correct.
Yeah.
Number 10.
Okay, I'm going to head off number 10 with the big guns. So speak to your vet about multimodal analgesic medications.
Yes.
There are so many, and there are different medications depending on the type of pain that your animal might be experiencing, whether that's inflammatory or neuropathic pain, and where in the body they're experiencing that, whether they're experiencing it in the brain or in the spinal cord or in the localized tissue areas. So we have pain medications for a reason, and so please ask your vet about them. Don't shy away from them.
I love it. Perfect endpoint. Just very quickly, somebody asked about harnesses. There is no harness that's going to be a definitive for all dogs. I will big up the fact that Snuggle Pets actually made a beautiful harness for my Holly a long time back, because I wanted her to wear fleece lined, Y-shaped, comfortable harness that she could sleep in. But I just wanted a little handle on the back for stability. I didn't want to lift her. I just wanted to stop her doing the crazy shit that she did, because her brain thought that her body could still do things that it couldn't. But then there's things like the Help 'em Up harness by Orthopets, and there's very similar other things. So there isn't a definitive, I'm afraid. I'm going to leave it there because otherwise we'll keep going. Please say thank you to Katrin. Everybody that's listened, say thank you to this amazing woman who I'm loving following her journey, because she is such an inspiration. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Evie, for putting up with me.
No problem.
And really, really great to see you. I'm really, really, really so pleased to have met you. It's fantastic.
Me too. Thank you so much for inviting me. I've had a blast. It's been a really lovely hour with you guys.
Good.
Thank you.
Good job. So, Cam followers, until next week, please join our member zone. Please join the big walk. The lovely Lynn will put a link to the website. We are completely self-funded, and I was telling Dr. Katrin, it's about $5 to $7 grand a month now to run this. So your support is duly needed to keep this service going. So please do join the big walk, pop to the Cam shop, sign up for Cam Essentials, join the member zone. Until next week, see you later.